Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me today for my first drive in this beast, the new Cadillac Escalade V with a frankly ludicrous nearly 700 horsepower from the factory in an Escalade. This is going to be my first time experiencing this thing with thanks to the Yonge Steeles private collection here in Toronto, Canada, a car with even more power than the absurdly powerful previous Cadillac I drove, which was the CT5V Blackwing, the competitor to the M5 CS. Well, today we're going to be finding out all about this, a first drive out on the roads, running through the interior, the technology, the infotainment and plenty more, but I think we need to hear it. The engine was previously found in the C7 generation Corvette Z06. It makes 682 horsepower, and given we're here in North America and we can do this, let's make the most of it. Just take a listen to that. Absolutely absurd. So let's get cracking on. Let's have a full look today at the new Cadillac Escalade V. I've shut it off for a moment, given we're here in a quiet cul-de-sac for a quick walk around, but very shortly we will roar it back into action to go and find out what this monster is like. Now, it's my first time taking a full look at the new Escalade, and it is enormous. It looks like it should be carrying the bodyguards for a celebrity or perhaps giving chase to a hypercar, but what a way to begin with the V, the flagship, with all of these V badges and designations that you find throughout. The quad exhaust tailpipe's very distinct at the rear, but it's a massive car, coming in at 211 inches long, that's about 5 meters and 40 centimeters, and weighing 6,300 pounds, that's almost 3 tons, 2,850 kilos. Despite that though, and despite the fact that this is the regular car as opposed to the extended wheelbase, it can do the 0 to 60 miles per hour sprint, almost 100 kilometers per hour, in only 4.3 seconds. That makes no sense in a car as big as this. Oh, there's a fox that just ran across the back. But what a last hurrah for the combustion engine, the 6.2 litre supercharged V8 in a world where everything is heading electric, the rise of EVs. But this is Cadillac's 120th anniversary and they've introduced this. Now, as I said, I've never really taken a look at a new Escalade before, so let's start with a quick walk around because it's an aggressive looking thing. You've got these very strong lines, very straight sided, very flat front end, massive grille for the cooling, very large Cadillac logo, straight line across, wraparound headlights, the vertical running lights. You've got a new extended splitter as well on the Escalade V. We've also got exclusive 22-inch wheels on the V in this graphite colour. You've got the larger brakes. You've also got the V logo down there on the spokes. The badges, as I talked about, that you find throughout the bodywork. No mistaking exactly what car you are driving. Now, it features 2 seats up front, 2 in the middle, and a bench of 3 in the back. You've got plenty of practicality. In fact, let's come and have a quick look inside here. We'll check it out in more detail a little bit later. The door steps open as you open up the doors. Inside the car, we've got all of the technology, the curved digital displays, everything you could want, lots of practicality. In fact, quickly as well, in the back of the car here, we've got the 2 seats, as I mentioned, with the bench back there, everything that you could need. We'll run through all of that shortly, but I want to come and pop open the hood or the bonnet to show you the power plant. As I said, in a world where everything is heading electric, the fact that Cadillac have done this and stuck this power plant into a car like this is wild. 682 horsepower, 20 more than the CT5V Blackwing, 653 pounds-foot of torque, 10-speed auto gearbox, and capable of getting it to 60 miles an hour in just over 4 seconds. You also have the V logo up there. I think if we were counting V logos, we'd probably get to quite a few. You've got a plaque on the top as well of the person responsible for building this specific engine. But if I close this back down, we'll head to the inside of this car, because I want to show you a few things in here quickly before we do get out onto the road for the drive. Let's start it up, press of the button. That sounds silly starting. Augmented reality. Yes, it has a full camera screen with augmented reality to help you with the navigation system and where exactly you're going. Of course, you've got these 2 displays, the 16.9-inch display here and the 14.2-inch display right in front of the driver, the auto gearbox control, plenty of practicality with your USB ports and everything else that you might expect to find in the armrests and storage bins, but we'll go through all of that in just a moment when we get back. For the time being, let's take this out for a drive and go see if it's as fun as I suspect it might be. When I mentioned a couple of the things about the technology that you have in here, there's so much more. There's a 36 speaker system with speakers in the headrest. Yes, the sound system is in the headrest, in the roof, in just about everywhere you can imagine. I'm driving in a car at the moment that I haven't quite got my head around yet. I'm in completely normal default modes. We have the driving mode selector, you can change the ride height, those controls are all over to the left side of my steering wheel, but we're wafting along. We have Magnetic Ride 4, latest generation of the adjustable suspension system that they have for this, and like this, it's pretty quiet and pretty chilled and pretty comfortable. There's not a whole lot of noise that we're getting into the cabin. Now, if I go down to my mode selector and I just press this quickly, we can go into sport mode. There we go. Okay, that's a little bit artificial. As you lift off, it just non-stop burbles away. Lift off and wait for it. I'm not sure how much of that you hear, but that is, yeah, perhaps a little bit over the top. Now, you can, of course, change everything, change the displays, change all of that. This noise doesn't make sense. We're just cruising along here. I'm not sure how much of that you hear, but literally you lift off the throttle pedal and it's just like popcorn in a microwave. It's just non-stop popping and crackling away behind you when you're in sport mode. Of course, you've got the off-road modes and mud and slippery stuff and different settings depending where exactly you're driving and what you need it to be set up by. Given how far behind me the exhaust tailpipes are, I'm amazed at how loud that is and how loud obviously it must be outside the car as well. In terms of driving though, obviously this is very comfortable. I can have my heated seat on, my heated steering wheel, heated just about everything. You've got your ventilated stuff as well. You've obviously got this augmented reality, you've got lane keeping assist, you've got blind spot monitoring, you've got automatic braking, you've got literally everything you can think of is in here. For a very small optional upcharge on the base price, you add the full tech package and you get the whole works, and I'm sure that's completely worth it. Your Sirius radio and all of that. It also has wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is a nice welcome feature to have in here as well. It's just silly. It's just silly, to be completely honest, but it's actually quite comfortable. Obviously being seated really high up, something I'm not overly familiar with because you basically don't get cars as large as this in Europe. I spent a bit of time driving F-150s and various different Rams and pickup trucks and stuff, but this is just, it's boggling my mind because it makes very little sense. And obviously at this point in time, we're just driving around town. I've not put my foot down. I've not tried to experience any of the acceleration from it, just going along. And obviously, as you would do, with no fear of parking space sizes or anything like that, as we do over in Europe, where something like this is just a little bit too long and a little bit too wide to fit into the majority of normal parking spaces, whereas out here, pretty much every second car is something of this nature. Now, if I pop it back into that snow ice mode, tow hauling mode, you can put your foot down with something big and heavy behind you. My mode, where you can configure it, or back into Tour. So just like in the Corvettes, Tour is your kind of standard mode. Obviously you don't have a track setting on here. It's an Escalade V, but it's not a Blackwing. Blackwing is being reserved more for the track focused cars. This new brand really, because it used to just be the CTSV, then it became the CT5V, and then the CT5V Blackwing. Again, cars I'm not hugely familiar with. Some do get imported, but being out here, I felt I had to give this a go, had to get it out on the road. This is where I should have put it back into sport, but I'm looking at these, again, massive. Everything in this car is massive. Displays in front of me. The main central display with the camera system on it, then the infotainment display where you've got various tiles and your apps and different things, all touchscreen controlled, and then I've got a further display on the left side, which gives me my trip information and some additional data, and it's all touch. Everything is a touchscreen, everything with multiple trips and things in there. All just works kind of how you think it should work. In the center you have your main climate control, air conditioning panel. Obviously put it in auto, whatever it might be, different zones, etc, etc. Again, what you'd want to have, and I'm seeing on the display that tells me we've got a Wi-Fi hotspot. Everything, you name it, you've probably got it in here with all of the different packages and options. You're sat in these super comfortable seats for a very quick, I'm going to call it, SUV. Is it an SUV or is it massively bigger than an SUV? I don't know, but it's a pretty nice place to be. Obviously so high and with good visibility and good viewing outside. I am going to pop it back into sport mode though, just because you can hear instantly. You could put it into manual. You basically just pull the shifter down to flick back between drive and manual. But I suspect with the 10-speed gearbox, that will feel like paddle, 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 paddle constantly. We've got a red line just over 6,000 RPM from this V8. Not exactly the most like sprightly, lively V8, but it's supercharged. It's a bigger blower than in the CT5V. That was a 1.7 litre. This is a 2.7 litre to get that extra power, along with a couple of other changes. And obviously this being much more about its off-roading capability than the C7 Z06 was. I'm going to have to move lanes, but God, those shifts, and then those cracks and pops and noises and silliness. This is basically what in so many ways Europeans think of when they think of America. It's just big and silly and over the top, and just because you can in some ways. But I tell you, the materials are actually quite nice inside here. It doesn't feel, let's say, plasticky and nasty. It feels really nice. It feels like a good place to be. That old image is kind of outdated. I hope that comes across on the video as loudly as I hear it. Now I am going to drive it in automatic, in drive. Manual is a little bit silly, but let's head out on a highway and go a little bit quicker. There are other things as well, like digital rear view mirror with a camera out the back, because you wouldn't basically see a whole load back behind you given all the seats and everything there. Let's go around this slip road. We're in sport, so you can change the ride height, as I mentioned. We're in sport, which defaults to stiffening everything up. Obviously you would expect a whole lot of body roll around here, and there is still a whole lot of body roll around here, although probably less than you might think for something that weighs over 6,000 pounds. This is a seriously hefty piece of kit that pops, burbles and crackles. Let's drop it down to, can we go down to third gear? Maybe we can go down to second gear. Right, foot down onto the highway. What was that? This is silly. Okay, yeah, it's not like gonna break any records at the end of the day, but what on earth? Wow. This is just too much fun. I'm popping it back into manual just to drop down some gears again. So we're taking the exit here, but before we do, there's loads of torque in any gear, and I'm surprised by how quickly it shifts for the auto gearbox. That's actually pretty decent. And when you're in drive, how quickly it responds and automatically drops gears as well. But obviously that's part of the character that they've been going for with this. The Cadillac were trying to introduce into the Escalade. I wonder what the internal discussion was to make this. The idea for making a car that does that. Okay, I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting this at all. I mean, this is just... it's just plain silly. It's just really silly. Obviously, it will automatically adjust the ride height depending on your mode and depending on the speed you're driving, for example. But you can voluntarily drop that down. We can put it there into entry-exit ground clearance, or you can have it at full height with the switch that changes the different driving modes. But oh, there we go. Put it up into normal ground clearance. I've got more V badges like at the bottom of the steering wheel. I've got one to the left here. There are just V badges everywhere you look. All the other controls and things that you have here. For opening the full roof, that must be one of these. Yes, that's this one. There we go. We've got the full panoramic, huge again, glass roof that we can open up. Split with the beam across the middle. I mean, they really did say, let's just put everything in here that we possibly can. I'm sure it drinks a whole lot of fuel, although I've not driven it enough to get through a tank to be able to comment accurately on that. We do have just all of the different settings and things that you can change. You can even have just the backrest heated and not the base. Like, I've never seen a car with options like that before. I feel like this is just filled with every single possible thing under the sun. So keep it in first gear. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. I mean, why not? It's not supercar fast, obviously. It's massive, but it doesn't pitch as much as I thought it would. That's actually quite an interesting thing. It doesn't pitch up into the air at the front. That's probably due to some stiffer dampers at the rear to make sure that it keeps a little bit more balanced than it otherwise would, all things considered, for something like this. and I obviously don't know exactly. It's almost like when it's lower in the RPMs, it burbles more than when it's higher in the RPMs. I'm literally learning this as I go. Who decided that it needed that? It doesn't make sense. The car doesn't make sense. Maybe that's why it works. Now that I'm parked up, let me show you a little bit more around the inside of the new Escalade, and particularly this car, the Escalade V. Lots that we can run through inside here in terms of the controls, and a rather wonderful mansion right in front as it happens, which you can see very vividly through that augmented reality display there. In fact, the whole dashboard display that you have is effectively a 39-inch diagonal display. You then have this 14.2-inch display just right in front of you for the driver, where you've got your compass, you've got your rev counter, your speed limit detection with the cameras, your fuel gauge over towards the right-hand side. On the steering wheel, you have the functionality like your cruise control settings, your gap adjust, should you wish to change that. You also have the heated steering wheel button just up here. We've got your media controls over towards this side, volume, etc. But otherwise, a nicely presented wheel with this V shape through the bottom of it, and again the V graphic down there. Your paddles, small paddles mounted on either side on the back, stalks behind for your lights and for your wipers, auto everything as you'd expect. Over towards the left side, this is where you have your driving mode selector, so as you press that, it runs through the various different settings. As you can see there, you've got your ride height adjust buttons here as well, so we can drop this down, for example, into the entry exit ground clearance mode before we step out. Your towing options, brightness of the displays, your electronic park brake, your heated memory seat controls, memory seat saving settings just here, mirrors and windows over towards this side, fold those in. These are your heated and ventilated seat controls. If I just pop open the door so you can see the actual controls that we have down here as well for your lumbar and for your seat base and seat backrest. All of those controls found there. Lots and lots of storage cubbies, soft close on the doors. Coming over towards here, auto hold button, lane keeping assistance button just there as well, which is currently on. With the shifter, you press P at the top to put it into park, slide it into drive, so you press it forwards into reverse, where you then get the full bird's eye view, and you can change to the different settings depending exactly what you would like to see from it. Loads of different cameras, lots of towing settings, lots of different setup to basically try and make your life as easy as possible with all of this. And I love these kind of 3D overhead views. I always find them very entertaining to look at and to see where you are. Pop it back into park. On this side, underneath this storage cubby, the trim panels are all very nicely presented. We've got USB-C as well as regular USB, a couple of cup holders, storage bins, little storage pocket just there as well. You can open up the armrest, more, well, there's an SD card in here, but more of your USB ports, and this shelf tray that slides forwards and backwards, or just have a very large storage bin as you would like out of that central space. Air conditioning vents are all nicely integrated underneath that dash line, keeping those fairly horizontal lines consistent with what we've seen on the exterior of the car. Now, very, very quickly, let me put this into, oh, I've gone all the way around, into sport mode. Just silly, but it's not quite it's not as loud when you're static as when you're driving. Still burbles and crackles. Anyway, switch that off for the moment. Door step has popped out for me. Got the Escalade entry sills, but I want to show you as well back here the amount of space available. This is where you can either fold just the back, fold the whole seat. Again, more storage areas as you'd hope. For the convenience side of it, loads of space, lovely view with all of the glass around us, the screens and air conditioning continuing through to the back, extra cup holders in the pop out just there, got the pockets on the seat backs, and then in the rear you've got the fold. You can fold just the single seat, or you can fold this side with the centerpiece as well, as and how you'd like it exactly, but all with this quite nice quilting and the perforations that continues through that we've seen on the front seats, but back here as well. So loads and loads of practicality, loads of adjustability with all of this. And as I come round towards the back, something of interest to me is that you have a button just here. If we press that, it actually opens the glass, the upper section. So if you want to just drop some bags in, but it's kind of awkward. That's not the easiest to do, because this is like nearly shoulder height. to get things into there. If we close that, you also have to close it from the glass. So you're going to leave fingerprints or have to find another workaround to be able to shut that down. You do, of course, have the power fold tailgate. So a double press of that will pop that open, and then you can have obviously the full space back here. When you're in the 7-seat configuration, you don't have the largest amount of space in the world, as you can see. We've got a storage net here which tucks away into this little bag as well, but you can fold the various parts. So for example, press that, it'll fold the seat down. The headrest is actually just caught on the seat in front, which hasn't exactly gone to plan. There we go. Interesting, that didn't work as smoothly as I thought it would. It's done the same on that one as well. There we go. It's drop down now. I think those can go flat if you put these seats slightly further forward, so you can have obviously a massive amount of space back here, or you can just press the buttons and fold those back up. You've got to do the headrests manually though for your rear passengers, and the middle seat belt comes down from the ceiling, the roof up above you. We've got the floor mats in here as well. You've also got things like a mains charging socket down here. I think what I got wrong is that you're supposed to do that to fold it. Oh no, that does the middle seat. Clever. So you can actually do the full middle seat down. There we go. And then you can do the back seats. Very fancy. Which way do I need to do that? Learning as I go here. Does that go down? There we go. Full massive amounts of luggage space. Yeah, you're not going to have an issue with practicality going on there, are you? Right, let's get all of this folded back up. I think maybe I have to do that manually. I think gone is the option for the automatic side of this for the middle seats, because they are, of course, manually operated. But nonetheless, clever to be able to do that, to have all of that functionality, and of course to have the powerful tailgate to close that back down again. Around here, just to show you what this is like when all the seats are down in place. Do I just fold this back up? Clever, but then it would need to be slid back again to make a comfortable seating position for the rear passengers, but easy enough, just like that, returned back to its position. So I think the big takeaway for me with this is that a car like this shouldn't do this. That makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. It's just silly. You can press again and stop it. There we go, turned it back off. Just absolutely silly. By way of a conclusion then about this big old beastie, just as the sprinklers have started at the house opposite, it is a big old thing. But I tell you what, I love that in this day and age, Cadillac decided to put a near 700 horsepower motor into an Escalade. On paper, that makes no sense at all, especially the way everything is going. And in fact, with European regulations, you wouldn't be able to have that engine or that exhaust noise anymore. Those days have completely gone. So why not make the most of this while you still can to bring the V badge to the Escalade, a car that is not too unreasonably priced at MSRP. In the United States, the base is 150,000 US dollars. In Canada, the base is 180,000 Canadian dollars. Of course, add a few options, and then given the fact that these aren't exactly being produced in massive numbers, the market adjustment that we see at the moment, which means the price is significantly higher. Regardless, I enjoyed that drive. It makes no sense at all, but sometimes making no sense is what makes a car make so much fun. The sound, the feeling, the tech, the options, the level of luxury. Yeah, okay, it's not a Rolls Royce or a Maybach or something like that. It's not at that level. But if you've seen drag races with these things, they absolutely fly. Even though it's this long, this heavy, it still gets a move on, and that's really pretty impressive. I think it looks mean, it looks aggressive. Perhaps I wouldn't go for the full blackout look. That's maybe a little bit too much of the bodyguard type thing, as I mentioned, for me, but I've enjoyed driving this an awful lot. So a huge thanks to the Yonge Steeles private collection for the opportunity to drive it today, and a huge thanks to you guys as always for your support. I hope you've enjoyed this full look and first drive experience in the new monster that is the Cadillac Escalade V. That's it for this time though, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers!